Okay, happy pot lovers. I am going to attempt to explain my planning process on this fountain. Put up pictures of how I built the thing. This is my pump house. I just threw it as an bottomless tube and then folded the top over so it has something to rest on. And my plan is I'm going to glue some rubber onto here and onto here, and that will prevent some slipping and take up some of the slack where this has warped a little bit in the firing, because the base pool here had 3 legs, and so it warped a little bit in the firing. Had I thought about it, I might have done it differently, but what my plan is to be able to have the cord come down through this opening and out underneath so that it's not draping over the side. You can also build some sort of a structure that goes over the side of your base pool or wherever your pump is, or you can build a whole nother compartment under here that holds the pump and is essentially unseen with your pump coming out above the water level. That's the thing. Your cord has to come out above the water level. So this part here is obviously higher than the water level. One poor planning option here was that I didn't make this big enough for the plug to go through. So that's a consideration if you don't want to do what I normally do. Now, what I normally do is create some quick disconnects. So these will snap right in here and right in here, so that if I have to take this pump out for whatever reason, say it burns up or something like that, I can replace it easily and don't have to worry about getting the cord out because it comes apart. Or if I want to move the fountain and just take it out to clean it and it's plugged in behind a table or something like that, then it's easy peasy lemon squeezy. The other thing that I will do, and I won't show you that, I will let you figure it out for yourself, I will put an inline on-off toggle switch, and I'll put the link to the one that I ordered in the show notes. It's not here yet, that's why it's not in. So, some things that I would do differently. This part, I put these little feet on here so that it sits on top of this and sort of kind of almost centers it, but the feet are not in the right place. There's a lot of wiggle room there. So that's one reason I'm putting some silicone or rubber or something on top of that so that this doesn't slide so much. I may next time make like a collar in here that fits down in here. And the other thing the things that you want to consider, this hose has to come up from the pump, which is in the bowl. It has to come up from here, and it does that easily through there. But this could have been a little bit bigger so that this piece would fit down through there. And that would have made it a little bit easier on me. Now I can take a Dremel. It's just barely not fitting. I could take a Dremel and Dremel that out, but what I ended up doing was putting the hose up from the bottom. Okay, now from here, where do we go? We have the top section, which this right here fits on this right here, and that's a pretty good fit. Again, I will put a little bit of rubber seal along there to help it fit a little bit tighter and a little less wiggle. The hose comes up through here very easily. And as long as these parts right here are above your water level, you really don't have to worry about things leaking in there. And even if it does leak in there, it's going to leak down into the bottom bowl. So plan the path of the water is what I'm trying to say. Okay, where do we go from here? This is my top piece. I planned for the water to bubble out of these little holes. You can have a bigger hole and have a more of a spout. A lot depends on your water pressure. So when you purchase a pump, you want a pump that is adjustable. This one has a high, a medium, and a low. And I think I had it on medium. The pumps that I had before this had a little dial that you could turn. It was more adjustable. I like that type better. I didn't see those this time when I ordered, so I ordered this one in a 2-pack. And these are very inexpensive. I got it on Amazon. I will put the link in the show notes for you. Other things to consider: your basin that holds your water has to be deep enough that when the water is up through all of the other pools, your pump is still submerged. But when you turn the pump off and all the water drains back down, the level of the water doesn't overflow. So that takes a little bit of planning. And you have to think about how much will drain out of your top compartment, how much your hose holds, and all of that. So you want to allow for that volume. Now, how do I assemble this? So what I do is I will take my hose and I will put it up through here, since it doesn't fit through that hole. And as you can see, it would be easier if I could thread everything down afterwards. Then I will put this on, because it has to go through there. And then this needs to be a tight fit in here. You can glue it in, but if you have to change that hose, then you're having a problem. So what I did was I just made a very tight fit, and I did have to Dremel this out a little bit after the clay shrunk, but it does squeeze in there and stay in there, but it takes a little bit of effort on my part to get it in there. And when you do this, you have to be careful not to break pieces of your fountain. Okay, so that's in, and then I can push it back down so that this sits on top like that. All right. Now I put my pump house in, and I thread my wiring down. Let me turn this so that you can see. I will move this out of the way and bring this over here. And turn this. Mr. Turtle, move out of the way. So I think you can see it. Yeah, you can see that hole right in there. So what I'm going to do is thread my wire down through there and out the bottom. And then I will carefully, because I don't want to break anything, I have to take this little nozzle right here and stick it in my pump. And it does help to have an extra set of hands when you're doing this, but it is absolutely doable on your own, I think, because I did it last night anyway. So that is down in there. Make sure that the connections are good and tight. And then I will sit this down in the pump house. Now you do have to measure. You can see I left a little tiny bit of extra length on that hose. This is just a little bit loose. So I might trim off just a little bit of that hose. Or what I might do, I think if I can get this on here all the way, then it will actually take up that little bit of slack. And there it goes. Now it's down on there all the way. I think that will take up that little tiny bit of slack that I had there. So let me reassemble this. Slide it on up through there. And I can pull this up and give myself some room. Trying to do this where you can see, and I don't want to keep moving the camera and make you dizzy, so I will move things around. So this right here goes into this right here, and I just work it in there. So one of the things that you want to look at on your pump is how high it will push the water, and figure out how tall your fountain is, and that tells you how much pressure, what size pump you need, what power pump you need. Okay, now we will come back here. I will get this back in its little, sit right up there. Get this back in the little hole without damaging the fountain. Put it down in the pump house, making sure that the cord stays out. And the pump does have a suction cup on it. If it sits flat on the bottom once it's wet, I don't really worry about that too much. All right, what do we do here? Something is not sitting correctly. Come on, pump, go where you belong. And you have to cut my hose just a little bit shorter there. There. Yeah. All right. Aha. Let's see what's wrong. So, before I had my pump facing this way, and that took a lot of the slack out of my line. All right, one more time. Come up here. Here. Sometimes you just have to fiddle with it and get it right and make adjustments and be a little flexible. Okay. I'm pretty happy with that. Now let me drag my board out from underneath. And I'll turn it around so you can see. Well, you can sort of see. All right. Now you don't want to run your pump without water in here, but I will go ahead and plug the cord in. And if you notice, I put a male on one end and a female on the other. That way I always get the polarity right on on my cord, and there's going to be a mark, like for instance, I don't know if you can see it, but on here there's writing on one side and there's not writing on the other. Sometimes it's a ridge on one side or a white line on one side, but you want to make sure that you line your polarities up. You want to make sure that you snap your fittings in all the way because you're dealing with water and electricity here. And now we can add some water after I get these a little bit more centered. And sometimes you might have to level certain things. Like you can see the base has a little bit of rock. That's another reason I'm going to add a little bit of rubber to the bottom and kind of take out that wobbly a little bit. And let's put some water in. And what I'm going to do is get some spare water so that as the pump sucks the water out of here up into the upper pools, I can fill it back up so I don't run the pump dry. All right, we'll put a little bit more in. Going just about up to the top. That should be enough. I think that's about the level it was last night, but I've got water here just in case. So let me plug in. And there she goes. So, and that is our fountain. And you can see it takes a minute for the water to run through these. And like I said, you might have to adjust so that they sit level. And this table, I don't think sits totally level either. So we have water flowing from all four on this one nicely. We have it flowing from 3 out of 4 on this one. It's kind of dribbling out of 1, so I'll tilt it just a little bit if I can. Maybe turn it like that. Yeah, not quite flowing out of that one, but that's okay. And sorry, there you go. Yeah. So I hope this helps you in planning your own fountain. You can adjust this if you have the water flowing too high. It may splash on you and you'll lose water. If you have it flowing too slow, then it's going to dribble underneath like this instead of flowing down the way you want it to. And some of it's just the angle of your spouts. So you have to play with it. You have to practice and figure out what works for you. But I look forward to seeing what you do. I hope you make a fountain or something else cool like that. And thanks for joining me. Y'all take care. Keep challenging yourself and stay centered. Share a little kindness.